If we do not get to your question on today's mailbag, / you couldn't watch the live mailbag, you can always hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are open, and it's better than a bunch of in-bio bots that I simply don't want to deal with. So hit me up on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. Liam Tucker, the Cowboys have won their first game. Time to get the 2025 Cowboys Super Bowl champion tattoo. Go, boys. As someone who has to drop a toaster in their tub for Zeke being the week 1 starting back, which he played better than I thought, so I'm actually very happy by that. I would not advise doing that. Don't be like 3-2-1 Noel. You know, you guys know the lore there, I'm sure. Do not advise. I still have my doubts with this team actually making a deep playoff run just with what this team is roster-wise. Cam Kramer, is this draft class on pace to be the most productive in the first year in recent Cowboys history? I'm going to go with no, simply because I don't know if you can really surpass how impactful that 2016 Cowboys draft class was. Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott were 2 of the best players in football that season at their respective positions, and it was also a quarterback, which boosts the value. Malik Collins actually had a decent rotation role for you. Anthony Brown eventually stepped up and played a kind of decent amount of snaps. He started 9 games that year. And help the Cowboys get the number 1 seed and everything. So I think this class is definitely going to be better than what we saw out of last year's class. But I don't think I'll put them on most productive in recent history. That 2016 class was really good. Even though they didn't get anything from Jalen Smith in year 1, they had a lot of success from first-year impacts. Steven Goltz, do you think Aubrey would have made the 71-yard field goal with McCarthy? I don't think so. That first try wasn't going to be good from 71. Now, I think he has the leg to hit it, but it was also a little bit chilly and a little bit windy in Cleveland that day. Had that been in a dome, had that been at AT&T Stadium, I think he could have hit it. But I don't think the conditions in that game were quite right. That's a big reason why Mike didn't attempt it, I think. He also messed up by screwing up the clock. Cliff Boxmiller, how did Zeke look in week 1? I think emphasizing relative to expectations, I think Zeke ran the ball pretty well in that game. I think there's still things I want to see more of out of the ground game. I crave explosive big plays. They had 1 explosive run from a back that was Rico Dowdle, but Zeke had a good 9-yard run. Overall, I think second half, they kind of didn't run the ball that great. They kind of went ultra-conservative in all phases to an extent. The touchdown run was nice. Great blocking up front. I say that not to take away anything from Zeke, but I want to give praise to the O-line, too. It was really great blocking up front. So if you get me 10 carries, 40 yards, and a score each week, that's probably pretty good. I do worry if the efficiency drops below that, though. I think there's still room for growth overall in this Cowboys ground game. But it's also week 1. So it is reasonable to expect that you can get more growth. So what is your confidence level in the Cowboys rush attack as we sit after week 1? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. From Billy Bob Jean, $5 super chat. Dak could have still been the highest paid QB at 56 average per year. Why would Dallas go up to $60 million? Seems they paid way more than they needed to. Couple reasons. A, the Dak contract was different than everybody else's. Dak had like all the guys that signed, there's the threat of the franchise tag for 2 years, or they're under contract for 2 more years. Dak Prescott had unprecedented leverage because he was in such a unique spot of being months away from free agency. The real number is less about the $60 million average per year. The guaranteed money is massive. Huge amounts of guaranteed, which would not have been possible if they hadn't gone closer to that $60 million per year threshold. There was a reason why that number had kept being thrown around out there that had been speculated before, and people were like, 70 in free agency. You messed up 5 years ago and you didn't pay him the first time you could have, or 6 years ago, whatever the exact timeline was there. So it was such a unique situation, you had to give him what his agent wanted. And look, in the end, Dak kind of did a team-friendly deal because he could have said, F you, I'm going to free agency. And that would have been bad. But in the end, he wanted to be in Dallas, and they found a way to get it done at quite literally the last second possible. Ecuador man, Zeke was fully healthy, and he was meh. Come on, Tom. He was better than I thought he looked at any real point last year for them, outside of like maybe 1 or 2 games. I much like the Dak contract stuff, I kind of just don't feel like arguing over Elliott at this point. Like, he is who he is. As like, if you're expecting prime Zeke, that was not a good game out of Elliott. If we're expecting him to be just a rotational back, that's fine. I still need to find more big plays on the ground. I don't want to be a bunch of 3-yard runs and get the occasional 9 and 6-yard run. Like, it's not great. Need to see higher success rate too. It's going to be a big deal for me. It was 30%. It's not great as well. Most of that came in the second half. I do think there's a good point being alluded to there by Ecuador man. I have always worried, and this goes back to like 2021, 22. I have worried less about Zeke in September and more about him in October and November. Because that body has taken a massive amount of hits. In college, in the NFL, the workload is significant. So he's going to be at his freshest in week 1. Does it stay fresh as the season goes on? Today's show is made possible by Rocket Money. How much do you think you're paying in subscriptions every month? The answer is probably a lot more than you actually think. Over 74% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. I know I did. It was a phone bill I was being double charged for. It was a huge pain in the butt to handle. That's why I like Rocket Money. It is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps lower your bills, all so you can grow your savings. They will cancel the stuff you don't want anymore for you. That way you don't have to deal with annoying customer service. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has hit the total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/Cowboys. That's rocketmoney.com/Cowboys. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's rocketmoney.com/Cowboys. Steven GX, seeing Kendricks have a great game yesterday makes me glad we snagged him away from the 49ers. Don't know what your plan at linebacker would have been without him. Don't know who you're going to get. The linebacker market dried up real quick. Thank God that we bullied the Cowboys into doing that. And frankly, thank goodness for Mike Zimmer. I don't know if that happens without Zimmer kind of making it happen to an extent. Very glad the Cowboys got Kendricks. I think you needed him at linebacker. You didn't want to go in the year with Overshown, Clark, and Leaf. That probably would have been too much risk. You needed that veteran presence. Tyler Albrecht, Trey Lance for a 5th from the Packers. Who says no? I think Green Bay says no. I would actually be very surprised if the Packers traded for him, because they bet it from Green Bay's perspective. Trey Lance is going to miss a few games, right? He'll be back week 3, week 4, week 5, whatever. That is probably when they're going to be comfortable giving Trey Lance a chance to learn the playbook and play. Like, they're already worried about Malik Willis being good, and he got traded for at the end of August, right? And Lance is also not a long-term future. So why would the Packers give a 5th-round pick for a QB that, frankly, wasn't good in the preseason, is still a project for 1 or 2 games? That's bad asset management. They'll just try to ride it out until Love gets back. In general, do you think the Cowboys will find a trade partner, if they want to, for Trey Lance? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off in the comments of today's show. Ragnarok Howe, Kalen Carson potential. Looking at the week 1 game, I thought he did okay against Cooper. I think helps when the quarterback was bad. Watson's not good. But I do think he played well. I think that's a very promising first ever start for Kalen Carson. So I liked what I saw out of him. Secondary overall, really good. Floor to set. Be some ups and downs, I'm sure. Maybe even a tougher matchup against the Saints this week. Ravens coming down the pipeline could be challenging too. You'll get some better receivers against the Niners if he has to play in that game. But 5th-round rookie, week 1, good stuff. Noah Turner. I think it'll be a bigger threat to the Cowboys. Eagles or Lions? I would rather play the Eagles than the Lions. Thoughts? Yeah, give me Philadelphia. especially in the regular season, because you'll probably split against Philadelphia, the Lions are going to have their Super Bowl against you. We do know that, right? I'm not trying to make that a shot against Detroit. All week, it is going to be, oh, the refs messed up the call against the Lions. They'll make Dan Skipper the captain, whatever. Ignore it. That's a big game for the Lions to prove that they were wronged, even though the refs screwed up the call way before that with the Aiden Hutchinson trip they called on Peyton Hendershot. Never should have gotten it. It would have been game over. But I do think the Lions are a better team. I think the Lions and Niners are the two best teams in the NFC. For more Cowboys watch parties and live shows and videos multiple times every single day, hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV. For the truth, JC forever, why does McCarthy always have a clock management problem? He's a football coach, and they all have it. Everyone does. They all screw it up constantly. They screw up fourth down decision-making, and they screw up clock management. I don't understand how. It happens every big game with McCarthy. There's something he screws up. And then that bungle of the clock was bad. I get that they thought the Browns celebrate there should have been a clock reset. No. Pay attention. Call timeout. You have two of them. You can't take them into the half. Like, we were all like, call timeout. There's a big old play clock out there. Look at it, Mike. Blows my mind. That happens every game. Every game. Straight out of Madden McCarthy management. So, it's how coaches are for whatever reason. They all screw it up pretty consistently. It's just dumb. From Tyler, with Overshown having one of the best, some of the best closing speed, Sam uses a QB spy or some blitzing opportunities. They did do that. They brought him on some pressures. He had a handful of pass rush snaps. He got home a couple times, and they did use him as a spy. They were very quick to adjust to that. There was the one play, I think if it was third down or fourth down, but DeMarvin Overshown basically crosses 70% of the field and makes the play on Watson as a spy. That was awesome. But they did it in week 1, and they will continue to do it. Wilson Taggart, can the Cowboys trade for Amari Cooper? I'm sure he wants to play with a good QB again. You're probably not wrong, by the way, although he did re-sign for the time being in Cleveland. But, yeah. No, you're not going to. The Browns can't punt on this year as an organization. They're too committed to winning games now. And they need Amari Cooper out there because Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore are fine, but Cooper's their number one. Not like, 4th round pick, 5th round pick if you want to go with a meme. They get for him isn't going to justify not being a good enough passing offense. Like, you need to get Amari going more. Browns were in hell on offense. Watson was a big factor in that. The O-line wasn't great, but he also held the ball way too long. I do think Amari misses Dallas. In one of his interviews, he said we a couple times talking about the Cowboys, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught that this week. He misses it. But the Cowboys let it get personal. Happens. Name a player, realistic, you can't get Mahomes, sorry, that you want to trade for. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. What player would you love to go out and get? Josephian Torres. Remember, Lipke was utilized heavily in the North Dakota State passing game. Running routes tight end wouldn't be too far of a stretch for him. It's true. He was also not really a fullback in North Dakota State. He was kind of like H-back, running back more than anything. So, very good point there, Joseph. Would not be surprised if he gets real tight end reps again if Ferguson misses this game against the Saints. Jay Gonzo 11. Name one running back you would trade for before the deadline. Still call about Israel Abanikanda. I still want juice. Like, that's what I'm craving. Craving explosive plays. Abanikanda stands out to me, who made the Jets roster, would be probably pretty cheap. Kind of worried that Damian Pierce might be bad, by the way. Mixon ran the ball way better than Pierce did all last year. Huge red flag in what Mixon is at this point in his career. Beyond that, you can call about Khalil Herbert. Bears' offense was bad week 1. Might not be too much to read from that, but I call about Herbert. I think all those things make sense. So I think running back area I will pursue if things don't get a little bit more explosive moving forward.